to us. The cops come in, everyone gets arrested. And, but the kicker is the little boy's not there.
Gardi's
little Gardi is not there. He's been sold already. And I have to go have this conversation with his father, who's waiting in another room. I'm sorry, in another hotel. We couldn't bring him too close to the site,
Sure.
the emotional aspect. So I then go and I have what I believe to this day still is the most consequential, maybe the most important conversation I've ever had with anybody. I have to tell him that his son wasn't there and we have no idea where he was. If you knew the hope that we had leading up to this, his son was going to be rescued.
Yeah.
I was going to walk through that hotel. And 1,000 times I played it in my mind. I'm going to walk through those doors and I'm going to deliver this boy back to his father. And I walk through those doors and I'm empty handed.
Mm-hmm.
And this father, his name's Gesno, he looks at me, I look at him, and he just starts to bawl, just weep. And I sit down and I'm crying, he's crying, and I eke out the words that we did rescue 28 children. And then this guy does something. He pops his head up, stops crying, and he says, "Why are we crying? This is amazing. We rescued 28 kids." You know, and I said, "Gesno, I'm worried about the one we didn't rescue."
Mm-hmm.
And he says, "No, you're missing the point." He said, "If my son hadn't been kidnapped, no response would have come. No teams would have come to rescue these kids." And he said this, he said, "If I have to lose my son so that these 28 kids can be rescued, that is a burden I'm willing to bear."
Oh.
And I'm just looking at this guy thinking, who are you? I wish I could say that.
Yeah.
Even to this day, if we're roles reversed, I know I couldn't. I wish I could. Then I go with him to the police station. He goes, "Let's go to the police. I want to find out more." So we go to the police station and he tells the police, like, I'm already in awe of this guy, right? And then he says to them, "If you can't find parents for the children who were rescued in the name of my son, then I will take them. I will be their father."
Wow.
And he goes home with 8 of those 28 kids. And I am so in awe. So I go home that night in this rat-infested Port-au-Prince hotel room because all we could afford at the time.
Yeah.
And I call my wife and I'm like, "You won't believe this story." I usually don't give her all the details because I don't want to scare her, but you won't believe. I tell this story and I just kept saying, "I want to be like this guy. This guy's my hero." Can you imagine, faced with this, he goes to the light. He goes to, how can I help these kids who were rescued in the name of my son? I'm weeping on the phone. And my wife, who is my spiritual guide and my, she's the one who gets me into all these good things.
You get yourself into trouble. She gets you into the other
That's
side
right.
of things.
That's right. And she says to me, "If you want to be like him, let's be like him. He took 8. You told me the story about these 2 beautiful children." And she says to me, "I want to be their mother. If he can take 8, I can take 2." And I said, "You got to be kidding me."
You already had 6 kids, just so
We
everyone
had 6
knows.
kids. I had just left my job. I had no money. I mean, I lost my pension when I quit early. And, we're running a nonprofit in the beginning days, especially. I mean, we had nothing, it's just like, we had enough money to do this operation. And I'm like, "Hun, this is expensive." Like, she's like, "I don't care." She's like, you do the right thing and do the right thing. And the other things will take care of themselves. So we did it, Jordan. So I under the instruction of my wife, I went back and I said, "And I'll take these. I want these 2 children." And they've been home now for 2 years. It took us 3 years to go through the adoption process, but they're home. They've been home for 2 years. They're thriving. They're beautiful kids. And this little girl who protected her little brother, I learned more about her story, and she becomes my hero. She does way more for me than I'm doing for her. Because I went to her and they're now in a good orphanage for the 3 years it takes to get them home. And every time we go down and bring toys and supplies, this little girl can't keep a thing for herself. Just like with the candy bar, right? She's giving everything away, everything. And I come to find out what's going on. When you have a life of service, your body actually responds with a chemical reaction when you're giving of yourself. And it's this beautiful thing that happens with dopamine and serotonin and oxytocin.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden you're a happier person. We all experience this. When you're giving and serving, you're happier. You're optimistic. You're full of light and creativity. And it's like, that's your daughter found that. She needed a way to protect her little brother. She was living in a world where she was enslaved. I mean, the only adults in her life wanted to hurt her in the worst ways.
Yeah.
And how she got around it was serving her little brother, serving the other kids in the orphanage. That's what I was witnessing. And I thought, what a lesson for all of us. And I mean, she protected her little brother through just serving and becoming empowered against darkness. So, anyway, these kids are mine now. They're thriving. It was the only case, I want to mention this, that I worked in my life that was a preventative strike. So my kids were never sexually exploited. Otherwise, I wouldn't even probably be telling the story.
Sure.
It was one of the few times, because we were following Gardi into, we really were able, usually you can't get that close until the transaction's been made.
Okay.
And then it's too late. Usually it's the lead that comes after the abuse. But in this case, because we were following a little boy who was kidnapped, we got into the belly of the beast early. And so those 28 kids were rescued before they were sold to pedophiles. And so it's an amazing story, and it's blessed our lives tremendously.
What happens to those people who get arrested? I mean, what do you do? Because Haiti's a little